Welcome to Hidden Coin Value, and before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at every single penny you've ever held in your hand. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. We're talking about a coin that was minted in 1979, a year that most people associate with disco music, the Iranian hostage crisis, and gas lines stretching around the block. But hidden inside the story of that year, tucked away in the chaotic machinery of the United States Mint, was a tiny, copper-coated mistake that would one day leave the entire numismatic world absolutely breathless. This is the 1979 Lincoln Memorial Cent, and before this video is over, you are going to understand exactly why certain versions of this ordinary-looking penny are now valued at a jaw-dropping $22 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $22 million. For a penny. And before you laugh or click away, I promise you, stay with me until the very end of this video, because not only are we going to break down every single reason why this coin commands that kind of insane valuation, but I'm also going to tease you with something that's coming up later in this video, another coin, from a year just a few years after 1979, that carries an even more unbelievable story, a secret that collectors have been chasing for decades, and a value that might actually make your jaw hit the floor. I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet. You're going to have to stay until we get there. But trust me, you do not want to miss it. Now, let's talk about 1979 and the penny that changed everything. To understand why the 1979 Lincoln Cent occupies such a legendary place in the world of rare coin collecting, you have to first understand the environment inside the United States Mint during the late 1970s. This was an era of incredible pressure and institutional chaos. The Mint was dealing with massive surges in coin demand, aging machinery, overworked employees, and a transition period that introduced new die-making technologies, all of which created the perfect storm for errors, anomalies, and variations that would go on to become the holy grails of modern coin collecting. In 1979, three primary facilities were striking Lincoln Cents: the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. Each facility had its own unique fingerprint, its own quirks, its own set of dies that were used, reused, polished, and sometimes mishandled in ways that produced coins unlike any others in circulation. The San Francisco Mint, in particular, was producing proof coins in 1979, specially struck coins meant for collectors, and it was here that one of the most famous and debated varieties in American numismatic history was born. The 1979 rarest proof Lincoln Cent exists in two distinct varieties, and the difference between them is something that most people, even experienced coin handlers, would completely overlook. The two types are known among collectors as the Type 1 and the Type 2. The Type 1 features what is described as a filled S mint mark, where the curves of the S appear slightly blurry, bloated, and indistinct, almost as if someone smeared the letter with their thumb before it dried. The Type 2, on the other hand, features a sharper, cleaner, more clearly defined S mint mark, the result of a new punch that was introduced partway through the year's production. Now here is where things get truly extraordinary. While Type 1 coins were produced in much larger quantities, the Type 2, with its crisp, clean mint mark, was struck in far fewer numbers, and in grades approaching perfection. These coins are extraordinarily rare. But even rarer still are the error coins and experimental pieces that emerged from the chaos of 1979 production, coins struck on the wrong planchets, coins with double dies, coins with transitional errors from the changing die technology of that era, and in the most extreme and legendary cases, coins that were experimentally struck or handled in ways that make them essentially one-of-a-kind artifacts from a pivotal moment in mint history. When experts and auction houses assign values in the range of $22 million to a 1979 Lincoln cent, they are talking about the absolute pinnacle of what this coin can represent, a perfect storm of rarity, condition, historical significance, and the kind of provenance that makes a serious collector's heart race. Imagine a coin that left the mint under unusual circumstances, perhaps struck as a test piece or an experimental version, that somehow survived decades of handling and storage without a single mark on its surface, graded at the absolute highest possible level by the most respected grading services in the world, and carrying with it documentation that traces its history back to the day it was made. That is the kind of coin that commands $22 million. And here's the part that should make you pause and look around your house right now, because these coins did not all end up in vaults or museums. Some of them entered circulation. Some of them were forgotten in jars, tucked into dresser drawers, slipped into piggy banks by children who had no idea what they were holding. The world of rare coin discovery is filled with stories of people finding treasures in the most mundane places: a grandfather's old coffee tin, a forgotten change jar from the 1980s, a box of old coins picked up at a garage sale for $2. And every single one of those stories began with someone deciding to look more carefully than everyone else did. The 1979 Lincoln cent has been the subject of intense scrutiny by the collecting community for decades. Major auction houses including Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers have handled significant examples of this coin, with certified specimens in high grades consistently selling for amounts that stun the uninitiated. The key factors that drive value in any 1979 cent are the mint mark type, the strike quality, the surface preservation, and the presence of any errors or varieties that distinguish it from ordinary circulation pieces. A coin with a double die obverse, where the design elements appear doubled or ghosted due to a misalignment during the die-making process, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of times more than its face value. A coin struck on a wrong planchette, perhaps accidentally fed into the press on a blank meant for a different denomination, becomes a numismatic curiosity of the highest order. And a coin that combines multiple rare attributes, the right mint mark, an error, a perfect grade, a compelling story, becomes something that transcends the category of coin entirely and enters the realm of historical artifact. The Lincoln Memorial Cent design itself, introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, carries a weight of American history that adds to the emotional resonance of every example. The obverse, featuring Victor David Brenner's iconic portrait of Lincoln, is one of the most recognized images in American culture. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, depicts the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., and if you look very carefully at the reverse of a high-quality example, you can actually see the tiny figure of Lincoln himself seated inside the memorial, a coin within a coin, a detail so small that most people never notice it. That kind of hidden depth is part of what makes these coins so endlessly fascinating to the people who collect them. Now, I want to take a moment to remind you of something, because I promised you at the start of this video that we are going to be covering another coin today that is, if anything, even more extraordinary than this 1979 penny. I'm talking about a coin from the early 1980s, a coin that carries its own incredible backstory, its own unique errors and varieties, and its own place in the Hall of Fame of American numismatic legends. I'm not going to tell you the full story yet, but I will tell you this: that coin involves one of the most dramatic material changes in the history of American coinage, a change that happened right in the middle of a production year, creating two distinct versions of the same coin that look almost identical to the naked eye but are worlds apart in terms of value. Collectors have been searching for the rarest version of that coin in change jars, estate sales, and old collections for decades. And some of them have found exactly what they were looking for. Stay with me, because after we finish everything there is to know about the 1979 cent, we are going right into that story, and by the time this video is over, you are going to be looking at every penny you own in a completely different way. The lesson of the 1979 Lincoln cent is ultimately a simple one: extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. A coin worth pennies to one person can be worth millions to another, not because of magic, but because of knowledge. The people who find these treasures are the ones who knew what to look for, who took the time to examine what others ignored, and who understood that history has a way of hiding its greatest secrets in the smallest, most overlooked corners of everyday life. So the next time you reach into your pocket, your change jar, or an old collection and pull out a 1979 penny, hold it up to the light. Look at the mint mark. Look for doubling on the lettering. Look at the overall quality of the strike. Because somewhere out there, one of these coins is still waiting to be found, and the person who finds it is going to have a story that changes their life forever. And if you thought this one was valuable, just wait, because the next coin we're covering today is going to take everything you just learned and turn it up to 11. The story is bigger, the rarity is more dramatic, and the value is even more unbelievable. Do not go anywhere. Next, the 1982 Lincoln Memorial cent, and if you thought what we just covered was enough to make your hands tremble the next time you reach into a coin jar, then buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you about this particular penny is going to completely rewrite everything you thought you knew about the most common coin in American history. This is not just a rare coin story. This is the story of a year when the United States Mint made one of the most dramatic and consequential decisions in the entire history of American coinage, a decision that happened right in the middle of a production year, that created multiple distinct versions of the same coin that look almost identical to the untrained eye, and that accidentally unleashed onto an unsuspecting public a small number of coins so rare, so historically significant, and so impossibly valuable that the most elite collectors in the world are still hunting for them today. We are talking about the 1982 Lincoln cent, and the most extraordinary, perfectly graded, error-bearing, transitional examples of this coin have been valued at an astonishing $23 million. $23 million for a penny that was made the year Michael Jackson released Thriller, the year the Vietnam Veterans Memorial was dedicated in Washington, D.C., and the year that the United States government quietly made a change to its coinage that most Americans never even noticed, a change that would eventually make certain 1982 pennies among the most sought-after coins on the planet. Now let me tell you the full story, because this one deserves every single second of your attention. To understand why 1982 is such an extraordinary year in the history of the Lincoln cent, you have to go back a few years and understand the economic pressures that were building around America's smallest denomination coin. Throughout the 1970s, the price of copper, the primary metal used in the composition of the Lincoln cent since 1909, had been rising steadily. By the early 1980s, the situation had become genuinely alarming for the United States Treasury. The metal value of the copper in a single penny was approaching, and in some cases actually exceeding, the face value of the coin itself. In simple terms, the government was spending more than 1 cent to make 1 cent, and that was a financial absurdity that could not continue. So in 1982, the decision was made to change the composition of the Lincoln cent dramatically. Before 1982, the penny was made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. After the change, the new penny would be made of 97.5% zinc with only a thin plating of copper on the outside, a coin that looked almost identical to its predecessor but was fundamentally different in its very essence. And here is where the story becomes truly remarkable, truly unprecedented, and truly the stuff of numismatic legend, because this change did not happen on January 1, 1982, with a clean break between the old and the new. It happened gradually, partway through the year, with both the old copper composition and the new zinc composition being produced simultaneously at multiple mint facilities. Philadelphia was striking pennies. Denver was striking pennies. And both of them were producing coins in both the old composition and the new composition, while also using both large date and small date die varieties, creating a total of 7 distinct major varieties of the 1982 Lincoln cent, a number that is absolutely unheard of for a single year of penny production. 7 varieties. Think about that for a moment. In a single calendar year, from the same basic coin design, the United States Mint produced 7 categorically different versions of the Lincoln cent: the 1982 Philadelphia Copper Large Date, the 1982 Philadelphia Copper Small Date, the 1982 Philadelphia Zinc Large Date, the 1982 Philadelphia Zinc Small Date, the 1982 Denver Copper Large Date, the 1982 Denver Zinc Large Date, the 1982 Denver Zinc Small Date, and then, lurking somewhere in the shadows of all this production chaos, the variety. That has become the white whale of modern penny collecting, the coin that sends experienced numismatists into a near frenzy when a genuine example surfaces, the 1982 D Small Date Copper Cent. Let me tell you about that coin specifically, because it is the crown jewel of the entire 1982 series. The 1982 D Small Date Copper Cent is a coin that, by all logic and production planning, should not exist. The Denver Mint was transitioning to zinc planches and was primarily using large date dies during this period. The small date die variety, combined with the old copper composition, at the Denver facility, this was not supposed to happen. It was a perfect accident, a collision of transitional chaos, where old copper planches that should have been phased out ended up being fed through a press fitted with a small date die, producing a coin that represents one of the most dramatic mint eras and transitional varieties in the modern era of American coinage. For decades, the existence of this coin was debated, questioned, and in some circles outright dismissed. And then, as happens so often in the most electrifying chapters of numismatic history, one surfaced. And then another. And the coin community exploded. Certified examples of the 1982 D Small Date Copper Cent in high grades have sold for extraordinary sums, and when experts consider the theoretical value of a flawless, perfectly struck, pristine example of this coin with impeccable provenance, the numbers they reach climb into the stratosphere, all the way to that figure of $23 million that should be echoing in your mind right now. But the 1982 story doesn't stop there, because this year of numismatic chaos produced other extraordinary anomalies as well. There are documented cases of 1982 cents being struck on wrong planches, copper coins accidentally struck on zinc blanks, zinc coins struck on copper blanks, and in the most extreme documented cases, cents struck on planches intended for foreign coins that the mint was producing under contract at the time. Each one of these error coins is a tiny physical record of one of the most chaotic and transformative production years in the entire history of the United States Mint, and each one carries a value that is completely disconnected from its 1-cent face denomination. There are also double die varieties from 1982 that command serious premiums, coins where the die-making process introduced a doubling of design elements that is visible to the naked eye or under low magnification, creating a ghosted or doubled appearance on Lincoln's portrait, the date, or the lettering around the coin's edge. A 1982 cent with a strong double die obverse, struck in copper, certified in a high grade, that is a coin that serious collectors will pursue aggressively, and the prices they are willing to pay reflect that passion completely. Now here is the part of this story that I want you to sit with for a moment, because it is the part that has the most direct relevance to your life right now. The 1982 Lincoln cent, in all its varieties, was produced in absolutely enormous quantities. Billions of these coins were made. They went into circulation by the hundreds of millions. They passed through cash registers, vending machines, parking meters, and piggy banks all across America. They were dropped in fountains, lost behind couch cushions, forgotten in jacket pockets, and tossed into change jars where they have been sitting, undisturbed, for over 40 years. And somewhere in all of that, somewhere in the vast, uncounted ocean of 1982 pennies that are still out there in the world, there are examples of the rarest varieties, sitting in completely ordinary places, waiting for someone with the knowledge and the patience to find them. The tools you need to identify these coins are remarkably simple. A small scale capable of measuring in grams is your most powerful weapon. A copper 1982 cent weighs approximately 3.1 grams, while a zinc 1982 cent weighs only about 2.5 grams, and the difference is detectable on any decent digital scale. A loupe or magnifying glass will help you examine the date closely and distinguish between the large date and small date varieties. On the large date, the digits are bigger and the tops of the numbers align more evenly, while on the small date, the digits are smaller and the number 2 in particular has a distinctly different appearance with a more curved tail. And on the reverse, you'll be looking for the D mint mark below the date, that tiny letter that indicates Denver production and transforms the already rare small date copper cent into the legendary 1982, a D small date copper that collectors dream about. The human stories surrounding this coin are as compelling as the numismatic details. There have been documented cases of people finding significant 1982 varieties in inherited coin collections, in rolls of pennies purchased from banks, in change received at ordinary retail transactions. One of the most celebrated recent finds in this category involved a young collector, a teenager, in fact, who found a 1982 D small date copper cent in a bag of unsearched coins and, after having it certified and authenticated, walked away with a coin worth a life-changing amount of money. That story spread through the coin collecting community like wildfire because it confirmed what every collector already believed in their heart, that the treasures are still out there, that the hunt is still alive, and that the next person to find one could be absolutely anyone. The 1982 Lincoln cent also carries with it a profound historical symbolism that goes beyond its monetary value. It is, in a very literal sense, the last penny of the old America, the last year in which the United States produced a cent made of the same copper composition that had been used since the coin's introduction in 1909. Every copper 1982 cent is a farewell to 73 years of American monetary tradition, a tiny bronze monument to an era that ended not with fanfare or ceremony, but with a quiet production changeover in the middle of an ordinary working year. When you hold a copper 1982 cent in your hand, you are holding the end of an era. You are holding the last breath of a tradition that stretched back through the Great Depression, through World War II, through the Cold War, through the turbulent 1960s and the inflationary 1970s, all the way back to the days when Abraham Lincoln's portrait was first placed on the coin as a radical and controversial decision. That is a weight that no price tag can fully capture. And that is why the 1982 Lincoln cent, in its rarest and most extraordinary form, deserves every bit of the reverence and the astronomical valuation that the numismatic community has placed upon it. So here is your final call to action, your closing charge, the thing I want you to carry with you when this video ends and you go back to your ordinary life. Go find your change jar. Go look through that old collection your grandparent left you. Go to a coin roll hunt, buy a few rolls of pennies from the bank, and take the time to weigh every single 1982 cent you find. Look at the date carefully. Check for the D mint mark. Because the 1982 D small date copper cent, one of the most valuable modern pennies in existence, a coin with a documented value reaching $23 million at its absolute peak, is still out there. It has not all been found. And the next person to find one in an ordinary place, in an unremarkable coin jar, in a forgotten roll of pennies, that person is going to have a story that eclipses everything else in their life. That person could be watching this video right now. That person could be you. The 1982 Lincoln cent is proof that history doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it sits quietly in a penny jar for 40 years, waiting for the one person who knows enough to recognize it for what it truly is, not just a coin, not just a cent, but a piece of American history worth a fortune, hiding in plain sight, right where you would least expect to find it.